tutorial we have now course for 1211, and it's all about law, and we'll be taking our bearing today from the evolution of law, taking our bearing from considering a lot of things that is attached to law and what makes them legally backed up. With this being said, let's start straight into it. Okay, so we have POL211, and the concept. Good evening, Miss Regina. It's great to have you on board. When we say evolution, we are simply talking about how it began, all right, how far it has gone, and what it is at the present. Okay, now let's look at law and morality. Okay, let's start with law and morality. Speaking of the evolution of law, let's start with law and morality. Now, in some way, law and morality may appear to mean the same thing, all right, and the two are usually confused for each other. Morality. Now, okay, the two may appear to mean the same, all right, the same thing, but they are different. Okay, law appears to be behind morality. Okay, now law may go beyond prevailing level of morality in the society. So we're going to be saying, what does morality mean, and what does law mean, and why that the two of them are confused for each other or seen as the same thing. Now, be that as it may, morality is a vital, all right, a vital constituent of the law. All right, it's a vital constituent of the law. Morality backs up. Morality is in support. Morality is a pivot. Why? The physical, the generally acknowledged, written, and official, okay, backing of morality. Okay, although morality has to do with the conscience, knowing what is good and what is bad, while law makes it official, stating that you must not do this. If you do this, you'll be punished. If you do this, this is the consequence. Now let's continue. The ultimate sanction of law is force. Okay? Although morality, as we know, when you do that which is against moral, is seen as immorality, and it has no official or boldly written consequence. There might be consequence that comes thereafter, but it is not sanctioned by force as against the law, all right, as against law whereby it's sanctioned is the implementation of force. Okay, please let's understand that. Morality appeals to a person's conscience. Appeals to a person's conscience. Are we together? It appeals, like your conscience, before the law, like there was a day I was in church, somebody asked, before the law was given to Moses, how did the people live? The 10 Commandments was given, the Bible was ever written, how did people live? All right, what was there to guide people not to do something that is bad and to do what is good? All right, what was guiding people? What was seen as a guide, as a law, then was seen as a conscience. It has been given to all men. Okay, all men to know what is good and evil. Good. It has been given to all men to know what is good and evil. And that thing that helps you to know what is good and evil is referred to as conscience. All right, and the subset, okay, under conscience is what we have as morality. As morality is saying, these are the things that is moral. Don't forget, moral is according to the standard of people in that society, according to the standard, according to the civil responsibility of everyone in society. All right, so what a society sees as moral might be different from what another society sees as moral. So according to what your society, your religion, your belief, whatever it is, sees as moral, your conscience is there to guide you in doing what is right and stay away from what is wrong. Now we have that as that. Now morality appeals to a person's conscience and sense of right and wrong, of what is good and what is evil. Are we together? As a principle of human conduct, conscience becomes a self-legislation mechanism. All right? As a principle of human conduct. That means morality is intertwined with what we see as human conduct. Human conduct. Let me write HC. Mr. Swayam, are you taking this course as well? This is a course for the Department of Political Science. Mr. Swayam, I told you to send me on WhatsApp so you can let me know the list of your registered courses so I can guide you properly. Okay. Now, let's continue, please. Now, morality. Okay, he said no. Okay, that's fine. Now, we say it appeals to a person's conscience. All right? It appeals to a person's conscience. Okay? Maybe you send me a message on WhatsApp because I have not gotten the message. Okay? Maybe you should resend me. Let me know your department. All right? Let me know your department, a list of the courses you are taking. All right? What we do on YouTube is just a fragment of the full package. All right? It's a fragment of what we do entirely. We still have Telegram classes and there are a lot of resources I give personally to enhance student studying. So message me on WhatsApp and send me a list of your courses and let me know what your department is. So now, according to the principle of human, all right, according to the principle of we have Human HC, human conduct. Okay, according to the principle of human conduct, conscience becomes a self-legislating mechanism, meaning that conscience here works together with your conduct. Don't forget I said morality is intertwined with what the society sees as wrong or bad. Now, in a society whereby the in a society, I've seen societies whereby there are certain animals you don't hunters don't kill. If any hunter dares to do that, it's a problem. All right. So it has become the moral. The moral in the sense is that, okay, if a hunter goes ahead and kills an animal, in his conscience, all right, his conscience will prick him, all right, and let him, knowing fully well that this thing I'm doing is bad though. Why is his conscience telling that this thing you have done is bad? It's because of the conduct in that society. So conscience now works with human conduct, all right, as a mechanism, an instrument, a tool. All right, conscience now is a mechanism, a tool that is seen as self-legislative mechanism. Self-legislating mechanism. Now, when we're talking about legislating here, we are talking about rules, all right, rules and regulation, all right. Mechanism here is not a means to an end, while self here is speaking of an individual in question, all right. So your conscience, like I said, ask that question in church, that what was that law or what was that principle guiding people, humans, before the law was given to Moses, and after we had the Holy Spirit and thereabout. Okay, their conscience was the written constitution, was the written law that works as principle, mechanism, self-legislating mechanism that works with their conduct and tells them what is right and what is wrong, which is morality. You see how this thing works together? We are talking about the evolution, how law came into existence. Now let's continue. Just a moment. Now, so it says here that as a principle of human conduct, conscience becomes a self-legislating mechanism enabling a person to choose according to his consciousness, all right, of his own liberty. All right, it has to do with an individual's choice. Nobody is enforcing anything, unlike law that the sanction is law. When it comes to morality, you have liberty to choose that which is right between that which is right or wrong. So we need to understand that, like I made mention of it earlier, that the basic principle of law is also the basic principle of morality. It's that good must be done and evil must be avoided. Well, law or morality, they have one basic principle: avoid bad and do good. Simple as that. So now morality is divided into two separate angles. Okay? Angles, I beg your pardon. Morality can be viewed from two separate angles. Now, very first angle is ideal morality. When we say ideal morality, what are we talking about? Alright, ideal morality dwells on morality in the context of the individual as a person. Alright, dwells on the individual as a person. Okay, that is the ideal morality. Dwells on the individual as a person, while we also have the positive morality. This discusses morality in relation to individual as a member. All right, discusses morality, all right, in relation of a, all right, in relation of in relation to the individual as a member of a community. As a member of a community. Okay, awesome. So these are the two angles we can view morality from. All right, this is more of intra-personal, because this is in between yourself. Should I do this or not? It's in between your conscience, right? But now here we are talking about the things you do that affect other people. All right, the things you do that affect your decisions by your conscience that affect other people as a result of you being a member of a community. Now let's continue. Now we have something on justice. It says here, justice is fairness, equity, and right application of the law. All right, justice. All right, fairness, equity. All right, and the right application of the law. All right, and we have that justice is what the law is supposed to produce. Okay, justice is what the law is supposed to produce. All right, the end result of the law is justice. Okay, the end result of the law is justice. Now, according to Blackstone said justice is a reservoir. Justice is a reservoir from where the concept of right, duty, and equality evolves. According to Blackstone said justice is a reservoir from where the concept of right, duty, and equity, I beg your pardon, equality All right, equality, right? Duty and equality involved. Let me take that down. Blackstone, a reservoir all right, a reservoir from where the concepts of right, duty, and equality in. That's according to Blackstone. Hence, without justice, an orderly society is unthinkable. Okay? Without justice, an orderly society is unthinkable. You cannot even think about it. Because if there is no justice, there can't be orderliness in the society. So now, let's continue. Let's quickly see some points. Let's take some points on customs. Customs. Now, custom, just like law, also does what? Have normative values and command obedience from the members of the society. Also, commands obedience from the members of the society. Okay? Customs also have normative values and command obedience from the members of society. A custom does not become legally binding unless it receives the force of the law. Okay? A custom is nothing more, all right, than ineffective unless it receives the legal binding. All right? The legally binding unless it receives the force of the law. Custom does not become legally binding unless it receives the force of law. What are we talking about here? We'll get to know as we continue, as we comment in the class, that when we are making law, all right, law that will bind a particular society, you have to put into consideration the custom, right, of the people you are doing law that will bind them. All right, you have to look deep into their custom and tradition to know the kind of law. Now, what I'm not saying is that the custom that receives legal backing is what we now refer to as law. Are we together? The custom that receives legal backing, binding legally, is now what we are now referring to as law. So now the custom has not received a legal, all right, a force of law, then it's not legally binding. All right, it is not legally binding. So we have that on that. So very quickly, let's look at the types. Let's look at the types of law. Now we have the eternal law. All right, eternal law. We have the divine law. Divine law. Okay. We also have the natural law. Eternal. You already know what we are driving at. All right, you can guess or you can assume what we are driving at. Now, the word eternal is derived from eternity. Eternity. The word eternal is derived from eternity, and it literally means that something will always exist. Okay? It literally means that something has always existed, has never changed, and will always exist. The same yesterday, today, and forever. Okay? Something that has existed, that is existing, and will forever exist. Okay? Now, from this point, we can say that eternal laws are laws that are constant. They are constant, everlasting, and universal. Constant, everlasting, all right, and universal. Eternal laws are constant, everlasting, and universal. Let's take, for example, the law of gravity, flotation, and motion. The law of gravity are examples of eternal laws. The law of gravity, flotation, and motion. All right, are the same all over the world since the time of the prehistoric caveman up to the present time. This law has been, will continue to be, and they are being, they are existing, and will continue to exist. That is for eternal laws. Now we have the divine law. All right, you can all right, the eternal, the divine law, the literal meaning of divine is law of God. All right, law of God. Law of God. The word divine. All right, law of God. All right. Now, the divine law is based on the premise that man is incapable of making valid and just law because he is sinful by nature. So, since God no longer physically hands over law to man, as he was reported to have done to Moses in the Bible, now the early Christian then believed that Pope was the only ultimate representative of God, all right, on earth, vested with the authority to expound the interpret of divine, all right, relations. what are we saying here basically? These are the law by God. Remember the time Moses, whereby he handed over the stone, all right, handwriting carved on the stone, the 10 Commandments. All right, these are the types of law, divine law, and we can also refer to divine law as the law given to humanity by God Himself through His representative. All right, through His representative. All right, and we have also the natural law. Now, this natural law is let's say, for example, plant under given circumstance in a particular way, and it is the law of nature which makes us sleep, laugh, and hungry. These are not law of nature, law that amount to nature. All right, back to nature. All right, these are natural laws, laws that you, as human beings, you get to laugh, you get to reproduce. All right, you get to excrete, you get to smile. These are natural law. All right, also a good example of natural law is the law of karma. All right, the law that says that whatever you sow, that you will. Okay, so on this note, we'll call it a wrap for today, and in our next class we'll take a look at the theories of philosophies of law. All right, theories of philosophies of law. Take our bearing from there in our next class. All right, so thank you very much, Miss Regina. I'm here to receive your note on POL211 to the respective quarters. I believe we've been able to gain a thing or two in this tutorial. I look forward to seeing you all the subsequent tutorial. You have a wonderful evening. Bye.